Hey everybody, it's Dr. Amy Myers. How are you guys doing today? I'm going to give you a minute to hop on and we are going to discuss today 5 strategies to reverse Hashimoto's disease. So first I want to welcome you, and for those who don't know me, as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Amy Myers. I'm a functional medicine physician. I was classically trained as a conventional medicine doctor and eventually opened up my own clinic, Austin Ultra Health, where people fly in from all over the world to see me, helping them with autoimmune diseases and thyroid conditions and gut issues. So I'm also the New York Times best-selling author of The Thyroid Connection and The Autoimmune Solution. And for those of you who do know me already, you likely know that I have been off the grid for the last couple of months. I had some family issues that I was dealing with. My father passed away very unexpectedly. And you also might likely know that we just announced 2 days ago that we also adopted a newborn little girl named Elle, who's 7 weeks old today, so time flies. So I'm really excited to be with you guys today because I have been off the grid and, like I said, working with my family and you know, just kind of regrouping, and I'm so excited to be back and get back to my mission of helping you guys. So thanks so much for joining. If you know anybody with thyroid conditions, please like and share this with them. And as many of you all know, my second year of medical school, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune condition of the thyroid. It's an overactive thyroid. Today we're going to be talking about Hashimoto's and ways to reverse that. But my mission is to not have conventional medicine fail you like it did me. Conventional medicine failed me with my Graves' disease, and it's my mission to not have it fail you with your autoimmune condition, whether it's Graves' or Hashimoto's. So today, let's jump into 5 strategies of how you, if you're suffering with Hashimoto's, can reverse it. So I'm going to walk through the 5 strategies, and then I'm going to be answering any of your questions that you want to write into me. So feel free. Also, be sure to announce your name, where you're from, and any questions that you have for me. So maybe I'll have my husband, who's here with me today, just call out some of the names of people and where they're writing in from, because I can't see them, and my staff will post your questions to me. So if you stick around till the end, this is going to take, I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes on the 5 strategies and then answer your questions. So if you stick around till the end, I'm going to be giving away 2 copies of my book. I'm going to be giving away a signed copy of The Thyroid Connection, which of course will help you reverse your Hashimoto's or your Graves', and the paperback of The Autoimmune Solution, which is my first book and my first love, will be coming out May 2nd, but they've sent me some pre-copies of that, so I'm going to be sending out a free signed copy of the paperback of The Autoimmune Solution. So I'm going to ask some questions at the end and pick 2 lucky winners. All right, so let's get started. Are y'all ready to get started? Do we have any people on, Javier?
Yeah.
Tell us who we have so far.
Kelly from Morgantown, West Virginia.
Kelly from Morgantown. Who else do we have?
It's scrolling through.
It's scrolling through. It's going too quickly. You can't call out another name or 2. I could probably hop on my own phone and figure it out. Can you do that for me, babe?
Yeah.
All right, great. We didn't really practice this ahead of time. All right, so let's jump into the 5 strategies to help you reverse your Hashimoto's. So I'm going to be writing them down on this whiteboard, and there are a few other things I'll be writing down, but the first one is to optimize your diet. So you might be thinking, you know, for some people this might be old news, and for other people this might be new news, but what does your diet have to do with your thyroid? Well, it has a couple of things to do with your thyroid. First, there are inflammatory foods and toxic foods that can actually cause something called leaky gut, which I'll get into in a minute. So these can disrupt the barrier of your gut, either by eating too many carbs and sugars or toxic foods like GMOs, or by even eating things that you might think are healthy, like grains and legumes, black beans and rice. You know, I was a vegetarian for 27 years, and I lived off of black beans and rice. And those can contain proteins in them called lectins that can actually be irritating to certain people's guts. Now, if you have Hashimoto's, you have an autoimmune condition, all right? So that's the first and foremost. If you don't even know about Hashimoto's, you have an autoimmune condition. So that's why we really care about the diet and what we're eating. So the first step is I often ask my patients to remove certain foods, some toxic and inflammatory foods, a few of which I've already mentioned, and then 2 really big ones that I want you to remove. And the first is gluten. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, I've heard all about gluten. This has got to be a fad. Well, no, there is actually research out there showing that the gluten molecule looks so similar to your thyroid tissue that often the immune system can confuse them. So again, I'm going to get into something called leaky gut in a minute. So before I jump into that, if you do have a leaky gut, then normally small molecules are not supposed to get into your bloodstream. But when you have a leaky gut, these large molecules that were never meant to get in do, things like gluten. And then your immune system's sitting right there and it goes on high alert. And it says, oh, this gluten is foreign. I need to go attack it. And when it goes to attack it, can actually inadvertently attack your thyroid tissue because they look so similar. Now, this process is called molecular mimicry. So if you can only give up one food, if you only take one thing away from this entire talk, probably the biggest take-home talk is if you have any sort of thyroid condition. Of course, we're talking about Hashimoto's here, but certainly even if you have Graves or thyroid cysts or nodules, I'd highly recommend that you give up gluten for that very reason with the molecular mimicry. The other food that I really want you to be giving up is dairy, and specifically casein. So casein is a protein found in dairy, mostly cheese, and there is an estimate that about 60% of the people who have a gluten issue also have a dairy issue with casein because of the same mechanism of molecular mimicry. Now, I know that that's a big word, but just remember, it's sort of like a case of mistaken identity. Our immune system goes to attack something that's foreign, and it inadvertently attacks something else. In this case, it goes to attack the gluten or dairy, and it inadvertently attacks your thyroid. So we'll see as we go on how this can happen with other things like infections and toxins as well. So another thing in optimizing your diet is to make sure that you're absolutely getting the nutrients that you need for your thyroid to be working in the first place. And these things are iodine, tyrosine, selenium, zinc, iron. If you don't have these, your thyroid is not going to be working properly. And as we'll go into iodine when I get into the toxin section, you'll see why that's so important. And there are many studies out there showing just by taking 200 micrograms of selenium a day, thyroid antibodies get reversed and decreased. So, I mean, that's pretty incredible. Where can you get selenium? Well, it's found in a lot of foods like oysters, but it's also found in Brazil nuts. So you could simply eat a Brazil nut every day. For those of you who don't know, I formulated to go along as a companion to the Thyroid Connection a multivitamin where, you know, my first book, I had a lot of people saying, I'm a little confused about the supplements. This is quite overwhelming. We, of course, get calls every day with people feeling overwhelmed. They're just learning about me, hearing about the process, and they're feeling overwhelmed. And so for the Thyroid Connection, I actually formulated my own multivitamin that includes 200 micrograms of selenium for this very reason, to help people with thyroid conditions. It has what I believe is the right amount of iodine. We'll get into that iodine controversy here in a minute. It has tyrosine, it has zinc, it has, if you get the one with iron in it, it has iron in it, B vitamins, magnesium, all the things that you need to run your system and for your thyroid to work properly. So optimizing your diet is very crucial. And again, remember, two important things from diet. Antibodies, I see it every day. People giving up gluten and their thyroid antibodies plummet just by taking that one simple step. Now, of course, there are people who are more complex and they need more interventions, but that is a really key one. And of course, as I mentioned, adding in selenium, eating a diet rich in whole foods, but adding in selenium in and of itself can cause those thyroid antibodies to decrease as well. So I think I'm going to take a minute and just talk quickly about the thyroid in case there's anybody new here about the thyroid and they might not even know that they have Hashimoto's. So I'm going to take a quick break from the strategies and just tell you about a few key things that you need to know about the thyroid, okay? So when I'm talking about the thyroid, when you're getting your labs checked, which a lot of people actually don't even know they have Hashimoto's, and that is because their doctor doesn't believe that whether it's just regular hypothyroidism or whether it's Hashimoto's, that the treatment is any different. And in one sense, certainly from a conventional standpoint, that is correct. They're going to put you on Synthroid or supplemental thyroid hormone or some sort, typically it's Synthroid, medication for your thyroid to give you the hormone back. Now, that is certainly a plausible thing to do, but you really want to know if you have any thyroid antibodies. And when I say thyroid antibodies, I'm talking about thyroid peroxidase, which we call TPO, or thyroglobulin antibody. So these are the two main ones that you want to get checked, and make sure your doctor checks these on you so you know whether it's autoimmune or not. Once you have one autoimmune condition, you're 3 times more likely to get another one. And the next one may be something not quite as easily treatable, like rheumatoid arthritis or MS. Of course, if you're following my program and the autoimmune solution, I would tell you that they can be reversed as well and they can be treated naturally. But for the conventional doctor, they're not going to tell you that. So you really do want to know if you have these antibodies. The true definition of Hashimoto's is having one of these antibodies plus some dysfunction in your labs requiring you to need some sort of supplemental thyroid hormone. So let's go over the labs that most doctors are checking. It's a TSH, which is called a thyroid stimulating hormone. That's really looking at your pituitary. It's the signal from your thyroid up to your brain saying, I need more hormone. So that's not really actually telling me about the thyroid itself. What I like to look at is a free T4, which is the storage form of the thyroid hormone. And more importantly, the most important one, besides antibodies, to know if your thyroid's functioning properly is a free T3. That really tells me about, that's the one that goes into every cell. It's the active form of the thyroid hormone, goes into all the receptors on your cells, gives you energy, keeps your hair from falling out, keeps you at your optimal weight, keeps the brain fog away, helps you hold a pregnancy, helps you not have miscarriages, things like that. And then a reverse T3. So that can, the free T3 is like the gas and the reverse T3 is like the brake. So we don't have time to get into all this and the conversions and stuff. I'll do another Facebook Live just all about labs. And of course, I talk all about this in the Thyroid Connection. I go over what all of these mean, what are optimal reference ranges, what are optimal lab ranges, where do you want these, and important ways for you to work with your doctor, even a conventional doctor, to make sure you're getting the right labs, the right diagnosis, and of course, the right treatment, and making sure that you know exactly what's going on. Okay, so sorry for the slight diversion. So the first step in reversing our Hashimoto's is going to be to optimize our diet. The second part of our strategies to reverse Hashimoto's is going to be to heal our leaky gut. So here we go. We are going to heal our leaky gut, or heal your gut. That's our second strategy. So many of you likely know, if you've been following me, what leaky gut is, but just as a reminder, a leaky gut is, our gut is normally semi-permeable. It's like a drawbridge. When we're digesting and most importantly absorbing our nutrients, our intestines normally open up a teeny tiny bit to let them in. But big particles, like I mentioned, gluten or casein, big molecules are not supposed to get into our bloodstream. But when we have leaky gut, and again, I go into this in the book, all the things that can cause leaky gut. I have lots of articles on my website all about leaky gut, what causes it, how to heal it, things like that. But when we have stress, when we're eating gluten, when we've taken antibiotics, when we're on acid blocking medications, these tight junctions can break apart, and then that is considered a leaky gut, where the tight junctions break apart, they stay open, and then large particles, the big boats that were never meant to get in. So that's what I was referencing before with the gluten. These big molecules come in, 60 to 80% of our immune system is sitting right there in our gut. Our gut is only one cell layer thick with most of our immune system sitting right there. The gluten or a toxin or an infection comes in to our bloodstream. The immune system senses it's foreign, goes on high alert, goes to attack it. And again, with the case of molecular mimicry with gluten and dairy, it can inadvertently attack your thyroid. So healing our gut is the most important thing in order to heal autoimmunity. Dr. Alessio Fasano, who's the key researcher out of Harvard, he's a medical doctor. Most of his research was on celiac, and then he actually discovered zonulin, which is a molecule that rises when your gut is leaky, and it keeps those drawbridges or those tight junctions open. He discovered that molecule. So he is the lead researcher on autoimmunity or celiac and leaky gut, and he believes that you really need a leaky gut in order for that to be a precursor to autoimmunity. Remember, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition. So likely if you have Hashimoto's or Graves or any other autoimmune condition, or if you're watching this, you have a leaky gut. So we want to heal that. Now, in my book, The Thyroid Connection, I have quizzes in the book to determine, do you have a leaky gut? And if so, what potentially is causing it? Typically, foods are causing it, but also infections. There's a large link between a bacterial infection in the gut called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and also candida can cause a leaky gut. So I have quizzes in the book that help you determine if you have one of these infections and exactly what to do about it. Step by step, how to heal these infections as the first step to healing your gut. So when we're going to heal our gut, we have something called a 4R approach to healing the gut. So the first thing we want to do in a 4R approach to healing the gut is to remove. And what are we removing? The first thing we're removing is foods like gluten and dairy that I talked to you about. There's a whole host of other ones that I talk about in the book, but that's a great place to start. We also want to remove these infections that I mentioned, small bowel bacterial overgrowth, candida. We want to restore, so we want to put back in what might be missing, like digestive enzymes, acid. If you're on an acid blocking medication, you might actually need stomach acid, something like HCl. We want to re-inoculate with really good high-powered probiotics, and we want to repair the gut with things like collagen. I have an exciting announcement. We've formulated our own collagen that's going to be coming out in the next week or two. So definitely sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already, so that you'll be the first in the know about that. You want to take L-glutamine. There's a variety of supplements that will help heal your gut. Now, our gut cells turn over naturally every 48 hours, so it's going to heal on its own, but we want to speed up that process in order to reverse the autoimmunity. Okay? So don't forget, like and share this with anybody who might be suffering from some thyroid or Hashimoto's. I'm going to see if there's anybody. We have Marsha from Clear Lake City, Texas. I see a lot of people already asking a lot of questions. Let's see who else we have. We have Robert Rolap on, who's always here, so we love having you here. We have Kelly Pryor. We have Cindy. We have Doreen, Sandy. So it looks like lots of questions are coming in. So keep them rolling. I'm going to get to them in just a minute. So just to recap, step number 1 is to remove or to optimize your diet, making sure that you have good quality nutrients to support your thyroid, and you're not eating foods that can have a molecular mimicry cross-reactivity with your thyroid. You want to be healing your leaky gut. So that's the 4R program that we'll be going through to heal our leaky gut and making sure we don't have any gut infections. And now we are going to move on to number 3, which is toxins. So strategy number 3 is to tame toxins. Now, I know that toxins can seem scary and a bit overwhelming, but really they're everywhere, so we just need to do our best. Know which ones are really bad for the thyroid and do our best to prevent those from coming in. So I have 2 strategies for toxins and taming the toxins. The first is preventing them from coming in. So the first step in that is knowing what they are, right? And knowing where they come from. So we prevent those from coming in. And then we want to work to get them out. So I'm going to go over some of the main ones that we want to prevent from coming in. And then, of course, my book goes into more strategies about how to deal with making sure that you are getting them out. You might be seeing, actually, I think my husband's cropped it out, but on either side of me, I'm at home right now in my office. I have my sunlight and sauna to the left of me that is great for detox, and to the right of me, I have my hyperbarics chamber. So I'm in a tiny little room, but I've packed it full of things to help keep me healthy. Now, I know everybody can't have those things at home, So I'm going to talk to you about some strategies that we can know about to prevent these toxins from coming in. So one of the biggest toxins really affecting our thyroid is something called the halides. So on the periodic table, we have chloride, fluoride, bromide, and iodine, or iodide. And our thyroid has the most iodine of any other organ in our body. And really what has happened over the years is, we used to be getting a lot of iodine from our diet. Our salt was iodized. Two things have really happened. We have increased the number of halides, the bromides, fluorides, and chlorides that we're being exposed to. And we are also not eating iodine-rich foods anymore. So it's this double whammy that has really set us up. I think it's one of the biggest reasons for all of the thyroid dysfunction that we're having these days. Why we are having an epidemic of people with Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, and why I believe that everybody ought to be taking a little bit of iodine. Not mega dosages, but a little bit of iodine. So bromides, the bromides, chlorides, and fluorides are found in our water. They're found in flame retardants, which are in our sofas, in our mattresses, in our rugs. We, of course, have, they're in our baked goods. So again, not to feel overwhelmed, but the more that you can do, go without carpet if you can, or, have hardwood floors or whatever you choose, and get a rug and get a wool rug, not getting the synthetic, wall-to-wall carpeting. Not eating a lot of baked goods with these bromides, and then making sure your water is filtered, not only on your tap that you drink, but in your shower too, and your bathtub. And of course, making sure that we're getting some iodine. Now you can get that through sea vegetables, or you can also, again, I've formulated the multivitamin to go along with the program that has 300 micrograms of iodine in it. So that's going to, once you get some more of that iodine in, it's going to help displace these halides, and then trying to not have them come into your system by being aware. Certainly you can, as I mentioned, eat the sea vegetables. Just be careful about the sources of those, and also eating seafood. We also have to worry about the things that are called endocrine disruptors, because because they can mimic things like estrogens in our body. And when our estrogens go up, they displace our thyroid hormone. They bind it up. The higher our estrogens, the more proteins come out to try to bind it. And when it does, it binds up the thyroid hormone as well. So those are things like BPA plastics. I'm not a fan really of any plastics. We have a newborn baby. She's using bottles, as you can imagine, and we opted for glass bottles. So if you can, glass. I'm sitting here drinking, and I think I'll take a sip of water out of glass. So you really want to avoid these plastics. Even the things that say BPA free, they're now knowing that whatever they're using in those plastics, that they're harmful chemicals as well. So I would, to my best of your ability, skip the plastics altogether. Get Pyrex, get glass, get stainless steel, just skip the plastics. Phthalates, parabens, these are things found in our makeup. If you guys know me, I wear Well People makeup. It's phthalate free, paraben free. It's a local company here in Austin. I love them. I don't get anything out of saying that other than a friendship with the owners. But so, looking for makeups and body products that are phthalate and paraben free and fragrance free, because fragrance can be absolutely anything. All right, and then the last one that I want to talk about with thyroid is mercury. So those silver fillings in your mouth, they are mercury, or they have mercury in them. Of course, mercury is in the air. We're breathing it all the time from coal burning plants, and it's of course found in vaccinations. So doing your best and of course eating tuna, and swordfish and and Atlantic salmon. So not eating those things. So people who have a high exposure to mercury are 2 times more likely to have thyroid antibodies. So the idea is that this mercury settles in your thyroid and displaces the iodine and creates an inflammatory response. The immune system comes in, creates an inflammatory response, and autoimmune disease ensues from there. So definitely staying away from the mercury, trying to get your fillings removed properly from a biological dentist. All right? So we have talked about our diet, we have talked about healing the leaky gut, we have talked about taming the toxins, and now we are going to talk about strategy number 4, which is infections. Strategy number 4 is to heal your infections. So there are a number of infections that are associated with Hashimoto's. So there are a whole host of infections through that process of molecular mimicry that can cause problems for those people with autoimmunity. In fact, I wrote about it in my first book, The Autoimmune Solution. There's a whole list of various infections that are known to be associated with specific autoimmune conditions through that process of molecular mimicry. So this is well known in the literature. Since we're talking about Hashimoto's, the one that is well known with Hashimoto's is Yersinia or Yersina. It's a bacterial infection in the gut. So this is something that you can get tested through your regular doctor. And again, it's that process called molecular mimicry that the Yersinia or Yersina bacteria looks very similar to our thyroid tissue. So when our immune system sees it in the gut, knows it's foreign, goes to attack it, it inadvertently attacks your thyroid. There are a number of other conditions that are viral that are known in just autoimmunity in general. Hepatitis B, hepatitis C, Epstein-Barr, the herpes virus, well known in many autoimmune conditions, and Hashimoto's is no different. And then we talked about it very briefly in the beginning, small bowel bacterial overgrowth or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO as I call it. There is a high rate of people who have SIBO, which I see all the time in my clinic, with having Hashimoto's. So not 100% sure the mechanism there. However, there is an association between SIBO and Hashimoto's. I don't know if it's a molecular mimicry or simply just leaky gut. Those people with bacterial or overgrowth conditions or candida in the gut typically have leaky gut. And we mentioned leaky gut is a precursor to autoimmunity. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition. So I have found by treating these infections in people, these antibodies come down. So, let me also state when I say, 5 strategies to reverse Hashimoto's, is it possible to reverse Hashimoto's? I would say yes. I see it every day. What is reversal? Well, in general, how I write about in the Autoimmune Solution, that reversal is, for many of those people, it is getting off heavy immunosuppressive drugs. It's getting symptom-free. And then it's also getting antibody-free, or at least lowering your antibodies. Now, the one thing that I'd say about Hashimoto's, because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are thinking, well, I've done all of these things and I'm still on my Synthroid, or I'm still on my Armor, or I'm still on my Westerthroid Pure, or my Natrathroid. That does not mean defeat. If you have something like diabetes or Hashimoto's that has a vital organ that's being affected and it has been destroyed, as of right now, we don't know a way to grow those back. So you might need some supplemental thyroid hormone. Many of you know my story. I had Graves and I didn't know about functional medicine or any of the strategies that I'm talking to you about today. So I had my thyroid ablated. I don't have a thyroid. So I can't suddenly grow it back. So I need to be I'm on Armor or Westerthroid Pure and a little bit of Synthroid. So I would die literally if I didn't take those. So those people who follow these 5 strategies and aren't able to fully get off their supplemental hormone, it is not defeat, it is not failure. The main thing is that your symptoms have gone away, that your hair is no longer falling out. You don't have the brain fog, you don't have the mood swings, you don't have the dry skin, you don't have the weight gain. You're able to hold and maintain a healthy pregnancy. There are a lot of studies showing just having the antibodies themselves put you at risk for anxiety, depression, put you at risk for miscarriage and infertility. So we want to get those antibodies down, and that's the important part. Getting those antibodies down, you can easily track those, and getting your symptoms to go away. That's what I believe is reversal. If you can also, if you're new to this process and we can get you prevent you from going on supplemental thyroid hormone, awesome. We can get you off of it, awesome. We can lower the dose, awesome. But for those people who can't, but all the other things have resolved for you, that to me is reversal. That to me is what is important. It's that quality of life, not having those terrible, terrible symptoms that people just don't understand if they've never been in your shoes. So I want to talk to you about the final strategy, the fifth strategy to reversing Hashimoto's. And that is, one second. So that is relieving your stress. Now, this has been the hardest one for me, as you can imagine, having just been through the loss of my father and adopting a newborn child and still managing to try to run a business. So relieving your stress is extremely important. We can't all get rid of our stress, right? But we can hopefully relieve it, give our system a break. So when you have stress, stress itself can lead to leaky gut. Literally, it's one of the factors that can lead to leaky gut. Leaky gut leads to autoimmunity. Stress can lead to candida. It can lead to us wanting to eat more carbs, leading to small bowel bacterial overgrowth or SIBO. Both of those are precursors to leaky gut. So already you're seeing the cycle, right? When we have stress, we have high cortisol, and we eventually deplete our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands and our thyroid are constantly talking. In fact, many people say if you don't heal your adrenals, you can't heal your thyroid, and vice versa. So they work hand in hand. Also, when we have stress, our cortisol rises, which decreases our ability to convert from that gas-giving free T3, and it converts more to that break reverse T3. So when you're stressed out, the last thing your body wants to do is, reproduce and give you energy. It's trying to conserve. And then, of course, high cortisol increases our estrogen. And estrogen, as I mentioned before, binds up our thyroid hormone. So we can't get rid of stress, but we want to make sure we're relieving stress. And I have an entire chapter in the Thyroid Connection all about how to relieve your stress. So for me, I love hopping in my sauna or getting in the hyperbaric chamber and meditating. Everybody can't do these things. You can do simple breathing techniques. On my phone, I have something called a heart math app that, my phone is always with me. It's just deep breathing, heart rate variability, meditation, prayer, a walk, looking at my daughter and seeing her smiling back at me. The stress just melts away. It seems like there's not another care in the world. So whatever it is for you, finding ways to relieve your stress is so important. So I'm about to head on to your questions here in just 1 second, but I just wanted to recap for everybody. Remember, if you have autoimmunity, these things can be reversed. I didn't get that chance. I didn't know me. I didn't know any doctor like me. I searched high and low. I have helped literally tens of thousands of people around the world. Of course, 1,000 or so have come to my clinic, but there are tens of thousands that never came to my clinic. They simply read the Autoimmune Solution or the Thyroid Connection, and every day I'm getting amazing feedback from people on Facebook. Literally, people take the time to write a letter. It's amazing. A woman who was losing her sight, told basically gonna go blind, sent me a letter, did the Autoimmune Solution program, and her eyesight completely came back. I have goosebumps right now. I mean, amazing stories. So I want you guys to know there's hope. This can be done. I have a program for you in the Thyroid Connection. It is step-by-step exactly what to do. There's a 30-day meal plan in there. There are recipes in there. And I talk in depth about all of the 5 strategies I've just gone over with you here. Of course, if you have another autoimmune condition, you can also pick up a copy of the Autoimmune Solution, which is coming out in paperback on May 2nd. So also we have my registered dietitian, Dana, who's available to work with people one-on-one if you need that as well. So let's recap these strategies, and let me remind you, reversal with Hashimoto's may or may not be that you can get off your supplemental thyroid hormone. Don't use that as the factor. Have your antibodies gone away? Are your antibodies lower? Are you on the right track? It's a very simple test that you can check. And most importantly, how is your quality of life? Did your hair stop falling out? Are you not as moody? Did you lose those last couple of pounds? Is your nails and your skin and your hair are vibrant again? The brain fog has diminished and gone away. You have clear thinking. You were able to get pregnant and maintain a healthy pregnancy. These are the important things. You can go out and play with your children. You have the energy to do that. You can go back to work. So that is what it means to reverse Hashimoto's. So let's quickly just review, and then I'm going to get to your questions. So the 5 strategies are that we are going to optimize our diet. Remember, those key foods that we want to get rid of because of molecular mimicry are gluten and dairy. Selenium, very, very key. In and of itself, 200 micrograms alone can reduce antibodies. We must heal our leaky gut. If you don't heal your leaky gut, all bets are off. Having autoimmunity means you likely have a leaky gut, and we've got to get in there. You got to figure out what infections you have and get rid of them, all right? We have that 4R approach that I talked about. You can go back and listen, or of course you can get the book. I walk you all through it. We want to be aware of these toxins. The halides are the most important ones to think about, and make sure you're taking iodine. We want to be cognizant of these plastics. Just ditch them. Makeups, things with fragrance in them, parabens, phthalates, get rid of them. Mercury, stay away from it. We want to heal your infections. So again, those can be things like SIBO or Yersinia through molecular mimicry. We want to get rid of these infections and relieving your stress. Not getting rid of it, but relieving it. Finding ways that you can have some downtime and relieve your stress. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to do lots more of these coming up. And I'm going to hop into some questions. If you know anybody out there suffering from Hashimoto's or autoimmunity or Graves', feel free to pass this on to them, like and share it. And don't forget, I'm going to be giving away a copy of the of the Autoimmune Solution and the Thyroid Connection towards the end of this talk. So I have about 25 minutes that I'll be able to answer some questions here, and I'm going to take a quick sip of water. And if you stick around, I might have a special guest that will come over and appear and make a debut on Facebook Live. Okay, I have Carrie. Is there a connection between Hashimoto's, fibromyalgia, and SIBO? And how well does a ketogenic diet work with Hashimoto's? So yes, there's absolutely a connection. I already discussed how there's a big connection between SIBO and Hashimoto's. And fibromyalgia in and of itself can be fibromyalgia, but there are many people who actually have Hashimoto's or low thyroid. I treat all the time that have a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. We get them on this program, get them on some supplemental thyroid hormone, and their fibromyalgia goes completely away. So fibromyalgia can be an entity in and of itself, but and people with fibromyalgia may have Hashimoto's, but it also may just be Hashimoto's in and of itself. So ketogenic diet can work very well to help with SIBO. Now, people with Hashimoto's and fibromyalgia typically are women and typically have adrenal issues. So you have to be careful with the ketogenic diet. Often, I have found when you're dealing with adrenal glands that aren't at their peak performance, ketogenic diets are not the best. A lot of people with adrenal issues need some carbs. So you'll just need to try that out for yourself. Okay, so V is Hashimoto's related to restless leg syndrome. So I don't know a connection specifically to Hashimoto's, but what I think about with restless leg is magnesium deficiency and iron deficiency. And certainly if you have magnesium deficiency and iron deficiency, it can set you up for Hashimoto's. So in that sense, there could be a connection. Clarenda. I have Sjogren's and rheumatoid arthritis. Will these strategies work for my issues? Yes, these strategies will absolutely work for these issues. If you don't have thyroid, then I would recommend you do the autoimmune solution, which it looks like maybe you've done that protocol. And you also now want to know, how do you know when your leaky gut is healed? Well, I'm about to start some video series called the Myers Minute, and I'm going to be addressing that because I get that question all the time. the best way, there certainly is testing that you can do, but the best way to know is that your symptoms are resolving. Your antibodies are coming down, your rheumatoid arthritis is getting better, your joint pain, your eyes are not as dry, your mouth is not as dry, and certainly if you have any digestive issues in and of themselves, they're improving. So it's really your outward manifestation. What is improving for you? That's one of the best ways to know if you're on the right track. Laura, do you recommend taking a B complex with Hashimoto's, and what about calcium if you're on a dairy-free diet? So calcium, and that's from Laura, calcium, there are much better sources of calcium, you know, from spinach, from broccoli. A B complex can certainly be helpful, again, because many people have adrenal issues when they have thyroid issues. I, again, formulated a multivitamin that I think has everything that most anybody needs for their thyroid. So it has premethylated B vitamins in it. It has some calcium. It, of course, has iodine. It has the 200 micrograms of selenium. So I think that that's a really great one-stop shopping that you can do there. Noelle wants to know about goat's milk and cheese. You know, that's an individual basis. These have different proteins than I was talking about with the casein and cow's milk, but the proteins are very similar. So a lot of people can have cross-reactivity and they cannot tolerate these. So I would recommend, while you're on the program in the Thyroid Connection, for 30 days, not eating that. And then afterwards, when you're going to add the foods back in to see how you respond, you could add in goat's milk and then goat's cheese and see how you personally respond to that one. Cherie, what if I've been diagnosed with Hashis but have no symptoms? Well, I would say, in one sense, lucky you, you don't have any symptoms. I'm sorry that you have Hashimoto's. I would still, even though you don't have any symptoms now, down the line you likely will. So I would highly recommend that you follow the 5 strategies that I was just talking about to help reduce your Hashimoto's before you need to get on any supplemental thyroid hormone. And you'll be one of those ones who likely can avoid ever getting on it just by following the program in the Thyroid Connection. So Marcia wants to know, how much iodine do I recommend? I mentioned that before. I have 300 micrograms in my multivitamin, and that's typically what I recommend for people. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Desiree, my big question is regarding different types of antibodies. My peroxidase has always been high with my thyroid globulin low, but now after cutting out gluten and doing other things, peroxidase is down half, but the thyroid globulin is going up. So Desiree, well, one, that's great that one of your antibodies is coming down. That's fabulous. So why the other one is going up, I don't 100% know. I would certainly follow the 5 strategies that I recommended. Looks like you've already incorporated a number of them, like cutting out gluten and some other foods that you don't mention. Looks like you're doing some stress relief with acupuncture. That's a really great way to reduce stress, get hormones in balance, and help with autoimmunity. So I don't mean to evade the question, but it's there are just so many things that it could be. I would certainly look at the 3 other factors that maybe have not been addressed. Or if you've only taken out gluten and haven't taken out some of the other foods that I've mentioned in the book. So Graciela, can you please tell me if we also have to avoid gluten cross-contamination as well? Absolutely. So if something's been cross-contaminated with gluten, then it contains gluten. So if that's the question that you're trying to ask me, absolutely. I mean, my house is completely gluten-free. We've had some external help come in to help with the baby so that I can be here and Javier can be here to do these Facebook Lives with you, and made it very clear, no gluten to enter my home. We have a gluten-free break room and office at my office. So I am very concerned about cross-contamination and would recommend that everyone else with an autoimmune condition be as well. Joan, when you remove foods to heal the gut, how do you know if a food added back in is damaging the gut again? Joanne. So Joanne, well, you can, if you want to be scientific about it, you can remove food, you can do food sensitivity testing, you can remove foods, you can add foods back in and retest. I mean, unless, you know, if you don't have any symptoms, that's really the only way to tell. That's very cumbersome, that's very expensive. So you hope that when you add a food back in, that it gives you some sort of symptom to let you know that it is not a good food for you to eat. So that's one of the main things that I teach you all in both of my programs, in both of my books, is really how to listen to your body and to be aware of whether it's a environmental factor, it's a food, it's even a friend that's toxic for you, how to listen to your body and to know what's good and what's bad for you. Chris, can you have a thyroid condition even if you have negative blood work? Well, that's a loaded question, Chris, because I would say, as I talk about in the Thyroid Connection, that many doctors are not checking a complete thyroid panel. So if you're going to a conventional doctor and they told you that your thyroid labs are normal, several things could be happening. And again, I've done several videos on this and we'll probably do more, and it's definitely all in the book, but they may not be checking all the labs, so that could be one reason it could get missed. Or they may be interpreting the labs as in normal reference range values rather than optimal. So I go over that in the book, tell you exactly what I believe is optimal, tell you exactly what labs to ask your doctor to order for you. So, but if they did get all the labs and they're even looking in optimal ranges and you feel terrible, could you still have a thyroid condition? It is possible. So there is something called a thyroid stimulating test where you actually get a dose of thyroid hormone and you kind of see what your body does with that. I don't personally do that test in my clinic, but Raphael Kelman in New York does do that. So if you're local to New York and you suspect this, that's a place that you could go to have that test done. Okay, Susan, can you please talk about nightshade vegetables and why they can cause pain and inflammation? I've had to avoid them for 20 years. So nightshade vegetables, I didn't talk about them here, but of course I do in the book. For people with autoimmune conditions, I do recommend that they remove them for 30 days and then you can add them back in and see how they do. But they can contain certain proteins in them that are very inflammatory and that can irritate the gut. And particularly people with rheumatoid arthritis or inflammatory joint conditions. So I do recommend that you avoid them for those 30 days and then you can add them back in to see. Susan, why do we get thyroid nodules? Well, that's a great question. I believe it's from the toxins in our environment. I believe that people are not getting enough iodine. People are getting too much vitamin D without K, and calcium's depositing there. People have toxins that have settled in there and infections, and the immune system's going in. We don't 100% know, but I think that it's really by going through the strategies that I've talked about for Hashimoto's here, if you follow those thyroid nodules ought to reduce or go away as well, particularly adding in some iodine. Okay, Hanny or Han, many smoothie recipes call for broccoli or other cruciferous vegetables. Would it be okay if I use them or steam them first, or is that a no-no? So again, I didn't have time to get into the cruciferous vegetables here, but I do talk about that in the Thyroid Connection. I think in general, I mean, if you're a person who is doing smoothies with raw vegetables or juicing a lot with raw vegetables and you have a thyroid condition, probably not optimal, but most people are not eating enough raw cruciferous vegetables to cause them a problem. Risk, benefit, and everything in life. And the benefit of eating these foods with all their nutrients and anti-cancer properties far outweighs any possible downside, unless you're a person who does really enjoy eating a lot of raw. When you steam them as you wrote or cook them, or even ferment them, then that decreases their what is called goitrogenic effect. So certainly if you're going to be eating lots, do that. And in my book, I do recommend in the recipes that you are cooking and steaming your broccoli and your Brussels sprouts and things like that. But in general, to have a smoothie here and there with some of these raw, not a big problem. Okay. Jennifer wants to know about a whole house water filter. I use Aquasana. You happen to be local to Austin. They are a local Austin company. I like to support Austin companies. For people who can't get a whole house water filter, we're currently in an apartment, so we obviously can't do that. They also sell individual units that you can just put on your shower head, and that's really great, and they're super cheap. And I think if you put in a code Dr. Myers, my staff will put it in, you get like a 30 or 40% discount. So my staff will put that in the links below in the Facebook Live, so you can use that code if you want. Okay. What about soy and Hashimoto's? I think it makes my hair fall out if it's in my supplements. Yeah, I mean, most soy, there obviously can be problems with soy in the thyroid, but I mostly think about soy, the fact that most of it's genetically modified. The genetically modified soy can cause leaky gut, leaving us open to autoimmunity. So I certainly, if you see it's making your hair fall out, you definitely don't want to be on it. And in general, not a huge fan. I definitely, in the program, in the Thyroid Connection, recommend that you remove it for at least 30 days. And then if you can tolerate it and want to add it back in, make sure you're getting organic. Okay. Diana, in order to see the difference, should I quit my euthyrox treatment and follow the diet alone and then run the lab test? Absolutely not. So even when people are coming in on really toxic immunosuppressive drugs to my office, day one, if they are working for them, I do not get them off these drugs. We want to do the program. We want to make interventions. We want to see progress and then slowly try to wean. So, and then remember, you may or may not be able to get off your thyroid medication because you might have done enough damage that you might need some supplemental. So how would you know you're going to start having more energy? You're going to sleep better. You're going to feel better. You're going to lose weight. If it's getting too much medication, then you might even start feeling hyperthyroid. So you go to your doctor, you get your labs checked, and then you begin to wean. You never want to take something like that and stop it cold turkey. Regina, have you ever supplemented with cortisol hormone to support the adrenals for your patients? When would this be beneficial? Regina, that's not something I typically use. I feel like there are cases where that can be helpful, but it's really a crutch. I really want to find out why somebody is in such an adrenal state. So I really support them. I have a product on my website called adrenal support, and it has various herbs like rhodiola to help support the adrenal glands, work to figure out what's stressing the adrenal glands. Now, have I had people come in on cortisol? Absolutely, I have. And, we do our best to work with the underlying root causes that I've talked about today and really try to get them off the cortisol. Of course, there are people with Addison's disease that is an autoimmune condition of the adrenal glands, and those people do need to be on life-saving cortisol. Renette, what is your thoughts on low-dose naltrexone? I think that it can be very helpful for some people. There's a website out there, low-dose naltrexone or ldn.org. You'll hear all kinds of success stories. I haven't seen a lot of huge success stories in my clinic like people are writing about. I'm not saying they're not happening. I do use it. I use it more as not a last resort, but after we've done these 5 strategies. If somebody comes in and you put them on low-dose naltrexone and you haven't worked with the underlying causes, and you're just putting a out-of-the-box Band-Aid on the situation. But there are reports that in and of itself can reduce thyroid antibodies. So if you're going to use it, I would use it either if I use it in my clinic after the 5 strategies, if we've not made the headway I want to make, or if you're going to a different doctor and they use it sooner, more as a temporary thing while you're working, on the underlying factors as well. So that's very key. You've got to work on those 5 strategies in order to reduce your Hashimoto's. Now, let me back up and say not everybody has all 5 of those that they need to work on. It's like a pie, and I could have 5 people with Hashimoto's, and one, gluten could be the biggest issue. Somebody else, stress could be the biggest issue. Somebody else, mercury could be the biggest issue. I find by the time people get to my clinic, all 5 of them are typically a problem, so we do typically address them, but I always start with the diet and the gut first and then work my way down. Okay, Carrie, after following these recommendations, will some or most of my hair ever return, or is the best to hope for is to make it stop less? If the reason for your hair loss is Hashimoto's and that you haven't been treated properly, and that you potentially, you can get your free T3 back up, or that you get on supplemental thyroid hormone, absolutely. Absolutely. That is just a factor of not having the proper thyroid hormone or having a lot of inflammation going on. Also, low ferritin can be a cause. If you have, alopecia areata or alopecia universalis, which is an autoimmune disease where you're losing your hair, again, there are a lot of strategies in the autoimmune solution to help with that, but that's, it depends on the cause. But if it's from Hashimoto's itself and you follow the program, and if you need thyroid medication you get on it, then absolutely, I see that day in and day out. Now know that the hair follicle, that's life cycle is 90 days. So a lot of times, even though it's working, you might not feel like it is yet because of the life cycle of that. So I'm going to get to one more question, but before I do, I'm going to ask some people a question. And let me see what this question is and if I can even see you the answers to the question. Hopefully I can, because I'm looking at myself on Facebook Live. Okay, so, and the hint to this is, if you don't know the answer, you could look at my Facebook page from 2 days ago and get the answer. So, what is the name of my newly adopted daughter? First two people that put in the answer to that question, one is going to get a paperback copy that has not been released yet of the autoimmune solution, and the other person is going to get, both of these will be signed, copy of the Thyroid Connection. So hopefully, are there any comments coming in? Because I can't see them.
Michelle Tottenham.
Huh?
Michelle.
Michelle, what's her name?
There's that one. Denise also.
Could you tell me their last names?
No, because it's disappeared.
Okay, Michelle, if you could send an email to community@amymyersmd.com with your address, you will get a copy of the autoimmune solution. And Denise, you are the winner of the Thyroid Connection. So my husband is telling me that you all have answered the question correctly. I'm hoping he knows the name of our daughter. Just kidding. So her name is Elizabeth Grace, and we are calling her Elle. So, all right, so why are we gonna do the special guest?
Sure.
Okay, Javier is gonna go get our special guest, and I'm going to answer this last question here. Rhonda, why would you feel more anxious with Hashimoto's? Rhonda, if you do a search about Hashimoto's and anxiety, or just TPO antibodies and anxiety, there are a lot of studies just showing that having antibodies, TPO antibodies in and of themselves, cause anxiety, and they believe it is from the inflammation to the brain from the thyroid antibodies. So it's very interesting. Even if you don't have, even if you don't need to take thyroid medication, that in and of itself can cause anxiety. So. All right, well, here we go, everybody. I'm going to show you our little special guest. Here she is. This is Miss Elizabeth Grace Garcia, Miss Elle. Hi, can you say hi to everybody? Say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Let me give her a little squeeze. Hey, this is my little precious. This is our precious who's 7 weeks old today. Oh, Mocha came in too. I don't know. Can you see Mocha all the way down here? No. Hi, Mocha. Mocha's been an amazing big sister, and she has been the most amazing little girl. So I'll certainly do a Facebook Live and share our journey about her. But we had just everything went absolutely perfect and went our way. I don't know if you guys know about seeding, which is when you have a C-section, taking the good bacteria from the birth canal and wiping the baby down when they're first born. So the doctor was able to do that for us, which we were super excited about. So we protected her little microbiome, and I was in the room and saw her when she took her very first breath, knew she was ours at that very second. And also we have found an incredible woman who we are getting breast milk from. So protecting her little microbiome from the very beginning here. So I'm going to have lots of blogs and information for you guys as well, so that we can hopefully set our children up for lifelong health and prevent this epidemic of autoimmunity. So thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. Like and share this, and I really appreciate you being here today, and I hope that this was helpful for you, and please know that there is help for you in your Hashimoto's, and it is just a few simple steps away. All right, y'all take care. Bye.